these three teams, the Pistons, the Hawks, and the Magic, have been bad for a minute now. Although we look at the Atlanta Hawks and they made that Eastern Conference Finals run just a few years ago. They literally broke Ben Simmons, and Ben Simmons, as he was falling off the cliff, kind of grabbed their leg, like a scene from Squid Game or something, and said, you're coming down with us. And the Hawks have not been good since. But I think the Hawks, the Pistons, and the Magic, all three have a chance to be pretty solid this season. Magic and Pistons have kind of already reached a point to where they are solid. Hawks are like, eh. Of these three, Pistons, Hawks, Magic, who will be relevant? And I'm talking like in the Eastern Conference Finals first.
Well, first off, I will say I like what all three teams did in the offseason. I'm going to stick with my Orlando Magic. I mean, you can only go up from, they were the worst.
Orlando Magic. Big
yes,
Disney
my
guy.
Orlando Magic. I bought stock a long time ago in the Orlando Magic. Now, they were the worst three-point team in all of the NBA at 31.8%. Dead last. They went and got Desmond Bane, who is one of the best three-point shooters in the entire league. I love what they did. They didn't give up much to get him either. And you got to think, Franz Wagner is going to shoot a little bit better the last 2 years. He's shooting about 28% from three. We've seen him be able to shoot the three ball. If he can improve there and Paolo gets a little bit better, they have the core there. That's who I'm sticking with. Suggs is an awesome defender. I just like what they built there and the culture. So I think they're probably the closest team to actually being an Eastern Conference contender.
All three of these teams have a similarity in that they had a star that was injured for a portion of last year. For the Magic, it's Jalen Suggs. For the Atlanta Hawks, it's Jalen Johnson. And then for the Orlando Magic, it would be, or for the Detroit Pistons, rather, it's Jayden Ivy. So Jayden. And of those three players, which do you think will have the biggest impact in returning? Suggs, great at defense, has really improved the offensive game, but we're talking excellent defensively on the perimeter and someone that can really help Paolo Banchero get out and running and use some of that athleticism and finishing ability that he has, because Banchero is awesome. And then Jayden Ivy to help space things for Cade Cunningham, take a little load off him. Ivy can score it. We haven't seen him in a minute now. And then Jalen Johnson, who has just continuously improved. He kind of reminds me of like a poor man Scotty Barnes, maybe even just Scotty Barnes, not even a poor man's at this point. He's good.
No, they're all good. I think probably, I said the Orlando Magic. I think Suggs is going to be huge to that. But for the Pistons, I think Jayden Ivy is massive for them. We saw a lot of just the Cade Cunningham show where he was just dribbling the ball throughout, and having to put up a late second shot clock heave. And with Jayden Ivy to take some of the pressure off Cade Cunningham, I think that's going to be big for the Pistons. And the Pistons, man, if you're a Detroit Pistons fan, you should be excited. You got to like what they've done, man. I mean, you look down, they added Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson, some shooters, right? Mikal Beasley got in trouble for alleged gambling, which I guess he got cleared of. And he, probably lost, a solid $15 million based on that. But I really like the young core that they have too. Thompson, you can just imagine he's going to take a leap. I like all these teams. Give me a team that sucks, Chuck. I'm being too optimistic here.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say the Portland Trailblazers, throw them in this mix. Have they risen maybe quicker than expected? I don't think they're even close to being there, but you say they may be a little sneaky?
Yeah, I think the Trailblazers, I mean, if we're talking the West, they have no chance. If they were in the East, I think they could be sneaky, but I think they're going to be more competitive than people think. I think one of those, you look down the schedule, you consider it a bye game, they're going to sneak out some. So if you're a gambler, and they're getting plus 12.5 on the road, take them. They're going to fight every day. They're young.
I don't know, between the Pistons, Hawks, and the Magic, clearly the stock answer right now. I would say it's probably Magic, Pistons, Hawks in that order. Although I will say some of the talking heads have just been, have been loving it when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks and what they did this offseason. And why shouldn't they? I mean, they really really took advantage of the New Orleans Pelicans in that DeJounte Murray deal. I want to get the exact. So basically, they had a mid-level exception. This is like the cherry on top of the ice cream, on top of the cake, on top of the whipped cream, everything. They got a ton from this deal, but they had a mid-level exception. They used it to pick up Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They'd already gotten Dyson Daniels in that deal. What else did they Porzingis, I think. So summing it up, Atlanta basically got rid of Murray in the 13th pick and turned that into Dyson Daniels, Kristaps Porzingis, Newell, a 2026 unprotected pick from New Orleans, a first, a 2027 pick, and that mid-level exception that turned it into Nikhil Alexander-Walker. But they're exciting, man. I mean, this is a team that benefits off having the utmost gravity. Like it's Steph Curry 1, it's Trae Young 2. If he can get some players around him, that's how you make a deep run. That's how this team made it to the East. They haven't been able to catch lightning in a bottle again. But dude, they got Zach Ricochet. I mean, he was the number 1 pick in 2024. And just because the state of the Hawks, I mean, talk about a big market team that doesn't always feel like it. They've been bad for a minute. And even the teams that they are good, it's like Al Horford's your best player, with all due respect to Al Horford, because he's awesome. But not always the sexiest big market team, I would say. But Ricochet, man, he's exciting. He needs to get stronger, needs to be a little more physical than finesse, but he can knock down the three at a decent clip. He's long. You had Jalen Johnson, who's long. They have some enticing pieces there to where I do think the Hawks are a little bit exciting. And then the Pistons, you talk about Jalen Duran. We didn't even mention his name. I think he's an awesome big to have on your squad as well. So I truly don't know out of these 3 teams. I think the Magic is what the sports books are going with. This is the first time since 2012, actually, that they are projected to win more than 50 games per the over-under. So since the Dwight Howard era, it's been a minute. Pistons have sucked for how long, man? I mean, you got to go back to the Palace, it feels like. They've had some really bad teams last year. They're on the rise, gave the Knicks a fight. And then Atlanta, they've sneakily been the best of the 3. But like I said, even when they're at their best, you kind of forget that they were good. You're like, oh, yeah, that's right, Trae Young in them.
Well, the question is for me, and I don't think it's necessarily a knock on him, but I don't think that you can have Trae Young as your best player and be a real contender. I know they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals when Ben Simmons forgot how to play basketball, but just the way that he plays, you mentioned Steph Curry. Steph Curry can play off ball, and he runs around those screens all damn day. There's too many videos of Trae Young without the basketball just sitting there like he's, playing Pop Warner baseball and he's in the right field. He's not doing a damn thing. It's too many times. He doesn't go for rebounds. I just don't love the way he plays. He is electric, and he can space the floor just about as good as anybody in the league. I just don't know if he can be your best guy.
No, but I do think the Indiana Pacers, although Halliburton's a stud, they and Siakam too, they did show that more is more. It's not always less is more, right? Like the depth that you have is huge. And when you talk about Dyson Daniels on the perimeter with Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and then you got the spacing of Trae Young, just the scoring ability, the athleticism of Jalen Johnson, Ricochet, who could take a big jump this year, although he didn't play a ton for France recently, but did have 38 points last April against Brooklyn, and busts don't score 38 points in the rookie year often. Like this guy is at the very least going to be a solid rotation player for a minute now. Have you seen enough of Ricochet to make any proclamation on how good he can be? Because I swear, out of all the number 1 picks, I think in my lifetime, minus Anthony Bennett, he has to be like the least regarded right now. No one talks about him.
Yeah, it's kind of like Cam Ward in the NFL. Like literally nobody was talking about Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick. Not a damn thing. It was all Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, it's because that draft class was quite poor. I mean, everybody was in the Cooper Flag stakes. Like nobody gave a shit about that draft class. He's shown enough to where it's like, hey, this is, even in a different draft class, if you took him 6th overall, for example, you'd be like, okay, I see it. You can see why he went 1 overall. The question is, going to be consistent? He's only a year in, but I was worried right when they drafted him. I didn't know anything about him. I just go bust. Guy's a bust. He doesn't look like that. He's not an Anthony Bennett, right? Like he looks like he can do it if he can stroke from deep, and he's got the size and athleticism. You're in a good spot if you're the Hawks. The problem is, will Trae Young pass the ball? We'll see.
I didn't even mention Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, that's someone else that you throw in there. So they got some players, man. Granted, Porzingis, kind of a wild card when he's on the floor. You know what you're going to get, but how much is he going to be on the floor this upcoming season, but I do think they have depth. I think they have some options there. I'm going to go on a whim here, and I'm going to say I'm going to take the field between, because everyone loves the Magic. I'm going to take the field between the Pistons and the Hawks, that one of those two has a better season than the Magic. How do you like that? How do you like them apples?
I like it. And I just said, is Trae Young going to pass it? And he averages like 9 assists a game. So he can pass the ball. Will he play any defense, and will he move out without the basketball? That's the big thing. But yeah, I like all three of these teams. They have depth, like you said. I think they're going to be feisty in the East. And by the way, the East is wide open, man. You got, Halliburton got hurt. Tatum's hurt. The East is wide open.
Which typical lousy franchise wins an NBA championship first? And not all have been lousy, especially recently. You got some teams that have made some runs and have had some really good regular seasons, but these are the 10 teams that have never won an NBA championship, and I want to know who's going to win one first. Leave it in the comments. Brooklyn Nets, Charlotte Hornets. I'm not going to take my bet on Charlotte. Let's just put it that way. The Indiana Pacers, close. Los Angeles Clippers, Memphis Grizzlies, Minnesota Timberwolves. Sneaky. Pelicans, Magic, Suns, or the Utah Jazz. Those are the 10 teams that have never won it. Who is going to be the first team to win it? For me, I'm looking at a squad that has a franchise player, because you would have to hope that, in the next 10 years, one of these teams can get one done. So I'd say Edwards. They've gotten close. I would say Paolo Banchero. I'd say maybe the Magic could be in there. And then I think the Clippers at this point, that their window's closing. I don't know if they're going to get it done. So maybe Pacers. I would say in that order, probably Wolves, Magic, Wolves, Pacers, Magic. Let's do that. Wolves, Pacers, Magic. You?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Pacers were just in the NBA Finals this last year and damn near had a good chance to win it. Halliburton got hurt. Things change rapidly. We'll see what happens when he comes back. And then the Clippers and the Brooklyn Nets, just big market teams where you can bring in, like, when's the last time the Utah Jazz were able to sign a superstar? I don't think I've ever seen it. Gordon Hayward. Now, he was drafted there, wasn't he? Yeah, so and plus Steve Ballmer, he circumvents the cap space. It doesn't matter what the cap is. He'll just, do a fraudulent company and sign an endorsement deal and pay anybody anything. Allegedly, excuse me. I would say, looking at that list, though, it would be the Brooklyn Nets, Clippers, and Orlando Magic for me, just from a market standpoint. You could throw in the Timberwolves just because they have Anthony Edwards. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon, and he's probably going to be a top 5 player over the next, decade? That's another team. But, I mean, these others, New Orleans Pelicans, Charlotte Hornets, like, can they just make the playoffs first before we even bring them up? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the experiment at the Smoothie King Center has not been excellent, and Zion's like a savior down there, because if they're committing to him, he's got to do something. Or when this NBA thing expands a little bit, Seattle want the Sonics back. Like, we're going to be looking at New Orleans. Like, it just hasn't made a ton of sense down there. It's not a huge NBA town. It doesn't feel like. The Memphis Grizzlies, they've worked out. They took the Tigers away from the old Pyramid, which is now a Bass Pro Fishing shop. Shout out. And they moved things into the FedEx Forum when they went from Vancouver. Actually went to a Vancouver Grizzlies game. Fun fact, at Conseco Fieldhouse against Reggie Miller and the Pacers. I was young. It's like Stromile Swift. They had Mike Bibby. Shout out. Those awesome Grizzlies uniforms. But if you would have told me this list like 3 years ago, it would have been Memphis for sure, with the team that they had, the 2 seed in the West, who I thought gave the Warriors the hardest task on the Warriors' way to the 2022 NBA championship. I would say, like, Memphis was that team. Where do they stand now? Like, what are they doing here with a couple guys locked up that are extremely solid? Solid is very not generous to these two. They're very good players in Jaren Jackson and Ja Morant. But overall, like, where do they stand in terms of the West? What are they doing? And Santi Aldama is nice too.
No, again, I feel like I'm a broken record. They have nice pieces, but the second they trade Desmond Bane, essentially for Caldwell Pope and some draft picks, I thought they were just going to be sellers. I thought we were going to see Jaren Jackson get packaged somewhere, possibly even Ja Morant, just with some of the off the court stuff that was going on. And it seems like they're like, no, we're going to add Ty Jerome and all as well. I don't really get it. Ty Jerome's a good player too, right? He's not Desmond Bane. I mean, Desmond Bane's a 20-point a guy, one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, and you get rid of him for some draft picks, and it looks like they're looking in the future, but also trying to be in the present at the same time. I don't really know. I could see this being a team that is sellers at the deadline if they're not sitting where they want to be, and the West is loaded. Maybe they can put in a request to actually be moved to the Eastern Conference. That might be their best bet, since Memphis is really on the eastern side of this country. Maybe that's their best bet. Move over to the Eastern Conference. They'd be right in the mix. But I don't know. You tell me. Like Scottie Pippen Jr., I thought looked really good for stretches. I don't think he's going to elevate you to the spot you want to be in. Zach Edey, he looked okay. I mean, he's a giant, but are they really going to compete in the West with this? Like, there's just no chance, in my opinion.
Gigi Jackson has had some moments when he's been healthy. Like they're interesting. Like they were pretty good for the majority of last season, and they just fell off a wall to end, because it was kind of a let's call it a surplus of teams right in the middle, like from 4 to really 9 or 8. It was separated by like a game and a half, to the point where the Warriors, were up a game with like 5 games left, and they end up in they were like the 4 seed with 5 games left, and they end up in the play-in. And Memphis, definitely, they were not beneficiaries of that, but they also just weren't good down the stretch of the season. Like they were losing bad. They weren't as efficient as they were earlier in the season. Just and they were healthy for the most part at times last season. So nothing to point their finger to there. It just seems like the Western Conference kind of passed them by. They were supposed to be what the Wolves are now and have that consistency, and there's no consistency, and now they got to replace Desmond Bane.